Zeus, youngest child of the Titans Cronus and Rhea. He had a difficult upbringing, having to survive being swallowed by his father and defeating him in the Battle of the Titans. The story goes that Cronus received a prophecy that he would be overthrown by a child of his, like he did to his father Uranus. He ate each of his children, up to 5 of them, that he had with Rhea, devouring each one after the last. Rhea had had enough of this. When she gave birth, she gave a stone to Cronus instead, saying that it was their child, and he ate it, assuming that the child was eaten. She sent their actual child Zeus off to be raised by Gaia, who grew into a strong young god, one day returning to defeat Cronus, cutting open his belly to free his brothers and sisters that had been eaten long ago. After this, Zeus and his other 2 brothers Poseidon and Hades draw straws to see what they would preside and rule over. Zeus drew the greatest straw and decided to rule over the sky. He was also chief god, so he gave out roles to the other gods. Following on from this story, we enter the era that the Greek people believed that they were living in. Considering that he is king of the gods and ruler of all of them, he has many symbols, but the main ones tend to be a bull, an aegis, an eagle, and most importantly, the thunderbolt. This was important because during the Battle of the Titans, where Zeus defeated his father Cronus, he fought alongside the Hecatoncheires, which he freed from their Titan prison, and the Cyclopses he also freed from the Titan prison, but they didn't fight, they built weapons for the gods, and the weapon that was given to Zeus was the thunderbolt. He ruled from his throne on Mount Olympus, where he would watch over the earth and coincide with the rest of the gods. Being king of the gods, Zeus was worshipped all over ancient Greece and in other parts of the Mediterranean too. But his main temple was the Temple of Zeus in Olympia, and it was actually considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. His throne on Olympus itself was guarded by 4 winged spirits, each of them representing a different attribute. There was Kratos, strength, Zealous, zeal, Nike, victory, and Baia, force. He was also responsible for the weather depending on his mood. He was the protector of the home and strangers, and looked negatively upon anyone that was a bad host. Additionally, he was known for his terrible wrath, and if you had been a bad host, it was highly likely that you were going to be severely punished by the god. There are several mythical beasts that are associated with and assisted the god Zeus. There were the Harpies, which were like an eagle with a human head. They were also known as the Hounds of Zeus, and they used to terrorize mortals at the command of Zeus himself. There was Pegasus, which would bring Zeus his lightning bolts whenever he needed them, and he also had 4 immortal horses which pulled his sky chariot. Zeus was initially married to Metis, an Oceanid, but fearing that a more powerful child would be born out of their relationship, like his father and his father before him, Zeus ate Metis. Over the next few days, Zeus had a growing head pain and headache, and he asked eventually for his head to be opened up to examine what was going on. When his head was opened up, a fully grown and armed Athena burst from his head. From this display, she quickly became his favourite daughter, but he did remarry again in the form of Hera. Hera became the queen of the gods, and Zeus's main and recognised wife. The story of how they married, though, is not so simple, as Hera initially refused his advances, but he forced himself upon her after disguising himself as a cuckoo bird when she took him in, and she ended up marrying him out of shame. Zeus being Zeus, he did have many affairs with both mortals and gods, which strongly angered his wife Hera. She did tend to punish both the women and the children that Zeus created and slept with. There are many examples of this, like the abduction of Europa, a beautiful woman who was taken to Crete by Zeus disguised as a bull, so that he could mate with her, and the abduction of Ganymede, a beautiful mortal man that was taken by Zeus to Olympus to be their cupbearer, and after his death, he was made a constellation. There's the story of Leda and the Swan, where Zeus became a swan to seduce Leda, and she went on to give birth to Helen of Troy. The more famous ones, however, are Heracles, Leto, and Semele. When Hera found out about Zeus's relationship with Semele, she burnt Semele to a crisp, but Zeus was able to save her unborn child by sewing the fetus into his thigh, later birthing the god Dionysus, who is considered to potentially be an Olympian in some sources. When Hera found that Leto was pregnant with Zeus's children, she was furious and stopped Leto from giving birth, cursing her to not give birth on solid land. She wandered for what seemed like an age, experiencing incredible pregnancy pains, until she found the island of Delos, which is said to have been mobile, and she was able to give birth there as it went against the curse. She gave birth to the twin Olympian gods Artemis and Apollo, who sought vengeance for the way that their mother had been treated. Another major affair is that made Heracles. Heracles enraged Hera so much that she sent snakes to kill him when he was a baby, though he crushed them easily. Later, she drove him mad, with him killing his wife and children, which is eventually what sent him on his 12 labours to regain his reputation and honour. Once, Hera was so sick of all the affairs that Zeus had been having that she convinced other gods, like Poseidon and Apollo, to form a rebellion and rise up against Zeus. However, Zeus discovered this rebellion, and punished Apollo and Poseidon by sending them to build a wall for a king of Troy, and punished Hera by hanging her from golden shackles from Olympus by her ankles, until she begged to come back up. Zeus had to yet again prove his worth while fighting the god monster Typhon, which was a winged humanoid monster with 100 snake heads. The rest of the gods flee to Egypt, yet he stays to secure his kingship and defeats the monster. There are many more myths including Zeus and his involvement with mortals and the ways he punished them with his wrathful behaviour, like Ixion, who is strapped to his wheel forever spinning, or Sisyphus, who has to push the boulder up the hill forever. But one of my favourites is how he punishes the king Lycaon. Referring to Zeus appreciating good hospitality that I mentioned earlier, Lycaon tests Zeus, realizing that Zeus is disguised as a mortal seeking his hospitality. So to test that he is the god Zeus, he cooks and serves Zeus human flesh. Zeus is absolutely furious and turns Lycaon into the first werewolf, creating lycanthropy initially, and then further punishes the human race by flooding the earth completely, which is a direct parallel with the biblical events of Noah and the Ark, with the Noah parallel being a man called Deucalion, who builds an ark and survives, and repopulates the earth by throwing bones over his shoulder. It is debated whether Zeus is actually the most powerful of the Olympian gods or not, with Poseidon potentially being more powerful, and I will do a video to cover him shortly. But Zeus definitely had the most respect and authority over the rest of the gods, and this makes Zeus, or Jupiter as the Romans would refer to him, the most powerful of the Greek gods.